Today we're going to go over one of the most iconic futuristic PDWs, which is the Kriss Vector. But this time we're going to go over the Kriss Vector Gen 3, and I'm going to be directly comparing it to my Kriss Vector Gen 2, basically pointing out all the key differences that you're going to see between the Gen 3, what the updates are, and I guess what's better about the Gen 3 comparing it to the Gen 2. But full disclosure guys, as always, what is my relationship with Kriss USA? They have sent me firearms in the past, like this Gen 2 here. So I know them pretty well, and they've went ahead and sent me this Gen 3 so that way I can do a comparison review for you guys. They do not pay me for these reviews though. They do not see the videos before I put them out. They see the videos the same time I post them up for you guys. So I just want to give a shout out to Kriss USA for continuing to believe in, I guess, my process of showing you guys some cool stuff. But let's get right into the details, guys. They both come in with a 5.5-inch barrel, and they also have the 16-inch variant, which has that like faux suppressor looking thing at the front of it. I don't really care for the 16 inches. I would rather go with the 5.5. I just think it looks more Vector-ish, I guess, if you go with a smaller barrel. Now, moving on back to the receivers itself, so the upper and lower here, you're going to have a slight difference between the Gen 2 and the Gen 3. And that's going to be that the Gen 3 comes with a little M-lock metal portion here with like 4 slots, I believe, on it. So you got an M-lock slot on the right, M-lock slot on the left, and then 2 at the bottom there. On the Gen 2s, I believe I got this one with like a 1913 style like tri-rail or something, so it had like 1913 on the right, the left, and at the bottom. But I went ahead and switched this little Strike Industries handguard here. I think this one looks super cool and futuristic. I think it really makes it pop off. And I also have their Strike Industries like blast diverter right there at the front, which gives it that futuristic pop, right? But unfortunately, guys, you cannot interchange the Gen 2 parts with the Gen 3, and I'll get into that a little later in the video. It has a lot, they changed a good amount of things on this gun, so unfortunately you can't put the Gen 2, so whoever's making Gen 2 parts right now is going to have to go ahead and redesign a whole new part for the Gen 3. Now moving on, the charging handle on the Gen 3 does come equipped with basically the similar style of charging handle, but it is shorter when you're comparing it to the Gen 2 there. So you can see it here, how long that is, and then comparing it to the Gen 2 here, you can see there. So you can see like it's like one slot cut off, and then I wish I can do a tabletop review for you guys, but just trust me that this one is longer than the Gen 3 here, which I like the fact that since this is kind of, I guess, a PDW, because it's so small, you want to have small parts on there so they don't snag on anything, right? Now moving on to another update here, you're going to notice that on that little, on this guy here, you got your bolt lock, bolt release here, that it is curved. So let me try to do that to the best that I can without losing focus here. So you got a slight curve here. It would probably make sense if I just show you the Gen 2. So on the Gen 2, this piece right here, the bolt release and bolt lock, it's square and it protrudes a good amount right there and right there. And it's a straight, I guess, design. On the Gen 3, they made the paddles round and they made it like curve. So if you can see right there, it curves into the body itself. I like it more aesthetically, and I guess as far as me putting my hand there, it doesn't stab me. On the Gen 2s, you can see that there is some slight wear at the end of mine. Is because when I'm holding it here, it is kind of grinding against my palm there. Doesn't make it uncomfortable, but it's just, I guess, a little bit more ergonomic on the Gen 3. Now moving on down from there, you got the mag release that is ambidextrous now, so you can swap this mag release to the other side, as opposed to the Gen 2, you do not have that option. So you got the mag release right there, but you don't have a way of putting it on this side. So for you lefties out there, the Gen 3 is going to be more of your, I guess it's gonna fit your criteria. Now, another thing on the mag release, you can see right here that they opened this part up and then kind of lifted it up higher past the mag release. If you don't get what I'm saying, let me try to explain it on the Gen 2. So on the Gen 2, you can see that the styling of the mag release is kind of like the same shape as the cutout that they have for it, right? But as you can see here, it kind of sits too far forward. So if you are shooting the Vector, and a lot of you guys that own a Vector probably have had this issue before, if you grab it anywhere near the mag release, or if you have your palm here, you will accidentally press that mag release and drop that mag, and that's not fun. So on the Gen 3 here, they kind of remedied that. So you have a bigger area where the mag release sits into. The mag release is also a different shape. It's square instead of that, like, I don't know, like D shape. I don't really know what to call that other shape there. And it sits a little bit farther back from this portion here. So you see from the end of this mag release to the front of the grip here, you got that gap, as opposed to this Gen 2 here. You don't really have a huge gap until you're tapping that mag release. So on the Gen 3, I did not have that issue when I was putting my palm there. So I was like trying to actually push it on purpose and wasn't doing it. So you're not gonna have any accidental magazine drops on the Gen 3. So moving on back from that, you have a new design trigger on this one. And sorry if I keep looking up because my monitor's up there, so I can't really see what I'm looking at there. But the trigger is redesigned, skeletonized now, and it's also, I think, a pound lighter than the Gen 2. I believe that's what I remember from talking to them at SHOT Show. So on the Gen 2, let me just give you a quick little dry fire here. Let's see. Check it's empty. You have that play there. Then you have the wall, creep, and then break. Let me try that again for you guys. So you got your reset, break. Now on the Gen 3, and hopefully I'm not mixing up the names of the Gen 2s and Gen 3s, but the black one is the Gen 3, and the Gen 2 is this multi-cam black one. But anyways, let me show you here, a little dry fire. So you got literally no play on that. Wall, and then break. Reset. Wall, break. So a lot less play, a lot less creep, and a lighter pull on the Gen 3 comparing it to the Gen 2. And they're not the best triggers in the world, so any update to the trigger system on the Vectors are a plus in my eyes. Now moving on back from that, you got the same essentially ambidextrous safeties, but if you'll notice on the little markings there that show you safer fire, you only have this little red triangle on each side that's basically showing you that it's fire, and then when you don't see that triangle, it's safe. On the Gen 2s, you see that you got the little bullet symbol that's red there, that's indicating that it's ready to go, fire, and then the white little symbol there is safe. Now moving on down from that, another major upgrade that they did to this is the fact that you're now able to put, I guess, AR-15 grips onto this. So you can take off this grip and just put on any AR-15 grip that is your favorite and pop it on there. The biggest downside to that is going to be that you can't use this little bridge here that they have on those other AR-15 grips. So me personally, I don't have a problem with this grip. I think it's pretty good if you ask me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep that because I think that gives it that iconic Vector look, right? If you don't have that there, it's kind of gonna look weird to me. So I like that bridge that bridges those two. It makes it super futuristic looking, a little bit different, but again, options, right? So you're gonna have that option to swap out that grip to whatever you like. Now, before I get into the last detail, I'm going to go over some of the accessories that are on here. So right here at the back, you'll notice that I have a Strike Industries dual folding brace. Fold it to both sides, or you could even take it off if you wanted to. I don't know why you're gonna run it like this, but you can definitely run it any way you like when it comes to that dual folder there, and you also have some flip up irons that are the Kriss Vector irons there. Really nice irons if you ask me. They kind of remind me of the new Magpul like Mbus Pros. But yeah, those are really nice irons. They also come on the Gen 2s here. And right on top of this, I have the HoloSun DRS thermal. I also have the night vision version, but I was just using this as a red dot. I didn't have, I didn't use the thermal on this one. I didn't really need to, so I just used it as a red dot. And that's the cool thing about this, is that you're able to use it as just the red dot, the thermal, or hybrid, I guess. So you can run both the thermal and the reticle that's in there, the red dot. If you want a, I guess, detailed review on this one here and the night vision, let me know. Drop a comment down below. I'm starting to do a lot more night vision and thermal content, so go ahead and let me know on that. I almost forgot that the Gen 3 9mm version comes with a 44 round mag. I believe the 10mm comes with like a 33 round mag, and I'm pretty sure it's the same thing for the 45, where it comes with like a 33 round mag. Also, you only get one mag that comes with it, but I'm pretty sure all you guys that are watching this video probably own a Glock, so this takes Glock 17 mags that you can just use the normal Glock 17 mags on there, or just buy the extension and stick them on your 17. Now, the last detail that I'm going to get into that's going to bring me back to the parts compatibility with from the Gen 2 to the Gen 3 is going to be this 1913 adapter here. Let me show you on the Gen 2. You can see that it kind of has like this buffer tube shape, and it did come with a like buffer tube brace that folded to one side, but this is a Kriss Vector Strike Industries part where it goes over that tube portion and it gives you a 1913 adapter, and it extends that length a little bit more. But they did away with that and just went ahead and put a 1913 adapter from the get-go, which I really appreciate. That leaves a lot more options for stocks or braces. But within doing that, you can see that they shortened that down quite a bit, and they kind of just essentially sliced this portion off right here. So they got rid of all this length right here, and I guess that was kind of their goal on the Gen 3, is to make it more of a compact setup. So they cut that down, put a 1913 adapter on that, and then they cut the front down a little bit and then put this little M-LOK rail. So that is the reason why you can't put the Gen 2 parts on there, because the length of the front end of this here is shorter on the Gen 3. So you cannot line these holes up that you're seeing here on the Gen 3. Again, it sucks, but I actually like that more because it does give a little bit more of a compact feel for a already compact PDW. And even though these little PDWs are compact, they were pretty much on the heavy side when it came down to little PCCs that I own. So like a little 9mm PCC, or like my B&T APC9, this one was actually heavier. And that's probably because of the Vector system. And if you guys don't know what the Vector system is, that's pretty much why this thing was created. The recoiling system comes from this here, and so it shoots from here, the barrel's here, it shoots from here and it comes down and it comes back up. It's a very cool and unique system. It makes the recoil very unique feeling. Instead of it kind of shooting up to the right, it shoots down. It kind of recoils downwards, and it makes sense because that bolt's traveling down and then coming back up. You'll feel it, especially when you're shooting the full auto version, especially like a 45 or a 10mm. That gun literally wants to go and travel down into your chest. When you're shooting the full auto Vector, you're kind of just using your support hand and trying to drive that gun back up with, yeah, it's a fun ride when you're shooting that thing. But yeah, sorry I got sidetracked. The Gen 3 is a more compact setup. You can definitely feel it when you're holding it. You can see it on these two here. Hopefully I can give you a good view. If I'm lining up where the grips are, you can see that the brace is shorter in the back. You're not going to really see the front just because I have that rail on there, or that handguard on there, but you can see that there's a slight bit of that front end cut down. So the Gen 3 is definitely shorter and lighter. I can definitely feel the difference in weight between this one and the Gen 2. And I also think they made it a little bit more futuristic looking. It already look futuristic as it is. I mean, look at this thing. But they cleaned up those lines a little bit, so it doesn't look, I guess, as bland. So they cut into the receiver a little bit more. They made like straighter lines on it compared to the Gen 2. You can see it's kind of plain Jane flat on the receiver. Everything's smooth, right? No curves to it whatsoever. On the Gen 3 here, you can see that there's some cutouts here. On the other side here, you got this portion here, you got like a little shelf cutouts there. It's nice and cut back here, the back end. You got like little 45-degree cuts compared to like the flat back end of this portion right here. You also have a little redesign on the front of that grip there, or where the magwell is at. You can see that the texturing there is like a fish gill type texturing, and on the Gen 2 you got like this ribbed for her pleasure type texturing. So nothing wrong with the Gen 2. I think it's pretty great if you ask me, and they actually curved it all the way up to the top, which I like. This one, you can see that the curve is a little bit more straight, so they kind of stopped it here, but this one still feels pretty good if you ask me. So a little bit more compact setup and a little bit more futuristic looking. Now that pretty much does it for the Kriss Vector Gen 3. Didn't have any issues within the 800 rounds that I shot, but I did have issues with ETS magazines seating into the Gen 3 properly. I don't have that issue with the Gen 2s, but when I was putting the Gen 3 or the ETS mags in the Gen 3, they just wouldn't seat right, and I would even download the mags to like, I guess like 30 rounds or so. They just weren't grabbing right. I don't know if there's a, I guess because of the redesign of the mag release, maybe it's not properly catching on those, but I didn't have any issues with the OEM Glock extended magazines. Also, I was keeping a close eye on the malfunctions part, because there have been people out there, including myself, that had issues with the Gen 1 9mm version. I have a 10mm as well. Didn't have any issues with the 10mm, but with the 9mm version, I did have some malfunctions. I think they were like failure to extract or something like that I was having. But the 9mm version wasn't really as reliable as my 10mm for the Gen 2s. So having the 9mm Gen 3, I was kind of sitting there thinking, man, I really hope this doesn't have that same issue. But within 800 rounds, shooting suppressed the whole 800, didn't have any issues whatsoever. So I'm really glad that this thing is actually working really nice out of the box. And hopefully, I don't know if they redesigned the internals or did something different in there, but this one so far is working great. But what do you guys think of the Kriss Vector Gen 3? I've seen it in a ton of movies. I think it's a true iconic movie piece just because of the way it looks, and I think they're still using it in a couple of movies nowadays. I saw a trailer, I believe it's that new like Alien, some of the soldiers were walking out with some of these that they look all even more kitted out and futuristic. But the Kriss Vector, I think, is always going to have a place in my heart, because I'm a huge movie fan and I do like seeing guns in movies and owning them. But what do you think about the Kriss Vector? Do you think it's just a gimmick, or do you really like the way it shoots? Me personally, I think it truly shines in full auto in like 45 or 10mm, because that thing, the cyclic rate on those are insane. And I think somebody is making a FRT trigger for these now. So those of you that are out there that have Vectors, look out for those Vector FRTs. But thank you guys so much for sticking around. I appreciate you all. Love you all. Catch you in the next one.